This is the story of a people who, since time immemorial, have taken the opportunities history has presented to develop the full potential of their country and its unique position in the world. At the heart of the Arabian Gulf is a rich and modern nation, Qatar. The scale of its ambitions belies its size. Qatar may be small, but it combines the qualities of tradition, modernity, a strong identity, and openness to the world. The first evidence of human presence in Qatar dates back 8,000 years to the 6th millennium BC. As the Mesopotamian civilization to the north developed, the Gulf became a thriving center of trade. In the 2nd century AD, the Greek geographer Ptolemy marked a country called Qatar on his map of the Arabian Peninsula. In the year 628, all the inhabitants of the Gulf region, responding to the Prophet Muhammad's call, announced their conversion to Islam, heralding the beginning of the Islamic era. For the next 9 centuries, Qatar remained, for the most part, independent and prospered as a trading nation, creating strong links with the caliphs of Baghdad. In 1515, the Portuguese imposed maritime and commercial control throughout the Gulf. But just 21 years later, in 1538, they were expelled by the Ottomans, whose empire dominated the region for the next 400 years. Despite the efforts of invaders, true power in Qatar remained in the hands of the local tribal elders. Throughout the 16th and 17th centuries, the Qataris witnessed the rivalry between the Portuguese, the Dutch, the English, and the French for control of the Indian and Far East trade routes. At the same time, the Qataris settled along the coastal regions, leaving the arid lands of the interior.
The regions were poor because of lack of rain and tribal conflicts, so they decided to move to these areas because they were open to the world and because they could make a living from the sea, be it through trade, pearls, or fishing.
The next 100 years was marked by rivalry between tribes for control of the region. In 1868, to maintain security and preserve British interests in the Gulf, Colonel Louis Pelly signed a peace treaty with the Qataris' choice of representative, Sheikh Mohammed bin Thani, recognizing his clan as the most important influence in assuring the country's independence. This event marked the beginning of the Al Thani's dynasty as the ruling family of Qatar. In 1871, Qatar's newfound sense of political self-determination was brought to a halt when the Turks installed a garrison in Qatar. December 1878 marked the inception of the modern state of Qatar, when Sheikh came to power. Sheikh fundamentally opposed Ottoman attempts to increase their influence in Qatar, and in March 1893 courageously took up arms against them.
Sher Jassim was a very clever man. He had this great idea of dividing his army into two. So he placed one half in front of the fortress and the other half at the rear. So when the Ottoman army attacked the Al-Wajba fortress, those soldiers that were at the back circled around the Ottomans. And this is how the Qatari people, led by Sher Jassim, defeated the Ottoman forces at the famous Battle of Al-Wajba.
With the outbreak of the First World War, Sher Abdallah, son of Sher Jassim, signed a protectorate agreement with Great Britain, thus ensuring protection for Qatar against foreign invasion, but leaving the supervision of some administrative matters to the British. This return to peace did not, unfortunately, bring with it economic prosperity. The next 20 years were to prove a particularly difficult period for Qatar and its people. Poverty visited itself upon both the nomadic Bedouin living in the arid lands of the center and the pearl fishermen living on the coast, who had to compete with the Japanese, while global demand declined. By 1930, the pearl market had collapsed. Yet everything was soon to change. In 1935, the first oil exploration on Qatari soil started to reveal the hidden riches beneath, and by 1939, oil was discovered in the Dukhan region. But if this discovery was to suggest better days, production had to immediately stop. It was the start of the Second World War. Living conditions were worse than rudimentary. Qataris continued their traditional lifestyle. Yet, despite the country being caught in an economic depression, the Qatari people once again endured. With the end of hostilities in 1945, the great oil adventure could finally begin. The first cargo of oil from the Dukhan field, destined for exportation, left the country in December 1949. Oil revenues instantly transformed the country. Commercial activity resumed, and Qatar embraced new education and teaching methods. It was a time to trade and open themselves up to the rest of the world. The Qataris showed great foresight and invested their newfound wealth in their own people. In 1952, the first Qatari public school welcomed students, and 1959 saw the opening of the Rumallah State Hospital.
In the early part of the century, people were mainly dependent on traditional medicine. You know, when my father he had appendicitis, and I guess this was when he was young, so it must have been in the 30s or 40s. They had to fly him to Bahrain.